All right, hey folks. So today's topic is going to be looking at this problem of nighttime eating, out of control nighttime eating or binging. I want to begin this discussion by just talking through the concept of objectivity, because that's important to this discussion. Very often we can't see the very things which are causing our problems in the first place. Now, this is one of the reasons why having a coach is so valuable, because you have somebody who is looking at you from the outside in and is unattached to your own personal feelings and thoughts and experiences. To be objective about yourself is difficult because inherently it is a subjective experience. You are always going to struggle with being influenced by your own preconceptions, your own experience, and it might be leading to the wrong conclusion. I think very often when you're challenged about your behavior on a thing which you don't think is a problem, it takes a lot of bravery to dig into yourself and think, okay, does this person actually have a point? It's easy to get angry and get dismissive and get upset. It requires bravery and strength to actually dig down into yourself and think to yourself, is the reason I'm getting angry and upset about this because they're right? And I find if you do that, if you come out of that process, normally what will happen is one of two things. Either your belief in yourself will be strengthened, or you will realize they were right all along, and you should thank that other person for opening your mind. And that's part of what we're going to discuss today. And the problem that I'm discussing here is one of nighttime eating or nighttime binging. So I had a client recently, and one of the things he said he struggles with is nighttime eating. He wakes up in the middle of the night just starving hungry. And he says, you know what, Faz, I'm not that hungry in the daytime, so I eat pretty lightly and I save all my calories before bed so I can have a nice big dinner and I can go to sleep. And so I said, okay, that doesn't seem to be working very well. And I've seen this before. And that's part of what the discussion is about. Some fasting schedules, some eating schedules may actually predict more binge eating. The very schedule that these people sometimes employ to help them with their nighttime eating actually exacerbates that. And it takes somebody like me, takes somebody objective who's seen this before to point this out and go, actually, that thing you're doing, that way of eating, that fasting schedule, or that eating schedule, that might actually be causing your problems, or it might be exacerbating your problems rather than helping. So if you think about it, if you have a schedule of eating where you do the majority of your eating late at night before bed, what you're doing is you are training the body to do two things. You're training the body to want food before bed. You're also training the body to want a lot of food at one sitting. So hold on a second. Your problem is that you wake up in the middle of the night and you want to eat a lot of food. But actually, all you're doing is you are quite literally training your body to want food at night and a lot of it in one sitting. You are training yourself to exacerbate these problems that you're trying to get rid of. When people actually realize this, it's a mind-blowing thing. Holy crap. I'm actually exacerbating my existing problems. I'm not fixing them. This is where a coach is very valuable, because if you're lucky, you may have been doing that behavior for months. If you're unlucky, you may have been doing that behavior for years, if not decades. And until you have that objectivity of somebody who says, hey, you know what? I know you have these problems and you had them for a while, but actually, this thing you're doing is really not helping. Until you have that, you may well not just only be seeing the short-term negatives of that behavior, but also the long-term entrenchment of those issues and disorders. And that is a really, really painful realization that actually, yes, you may be genetically predisposed to some of these factors, but a lot of your behavior patterns are exacerbating them and have now entrenched them even further into your personality and your life. That's an awful realization. So it takes some level of objectivity, which you can get from a good coach, to sow that seed and start to retrain some of those behaviors. I'm also not denying binge eating tendencies. There are people out there who have definite binge eating tendencies. These exist, and they are down to a complex mesh of physiological, social, and psychological reasons. There's no one quick fix. All I'm saying in this video is don't exacerbate the very issue that you're trying to fix. So let's talk about some ways to start to at least alleviate some of this pressure. First thing I would do is try to spread your food out throughout the day, because what you're going to be doing is you want to start to retrain your appetite away from eating exclusively or predominantly at night. So you are in a situation now where you've trained yourself to eat the majority of your food at night. You've trained your hunger to ramp up at night, and you've trained yourself to want a lot of food at night. You need to start to retrain your body to want food throughout the rest of the day and less at night. Also start retraining your appetite to want reasonably sized meals spread evenly throughout the day. So I would firstly start with breakfast. Have a reasonable large first meal of the day and have it early, okay? Like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever. And if that makes you really uncomfortable, then 12 o'clock at least. But have a large breakfast. Include plenty of fiber, fruits, vegetables, all that type of stuff, as well as a reasonable amount of protein. Also include carbs and healthy fats. So some examples of this would be overnight oats with some whey protein and some peanut butter. You could do yourself an omelette with vegetables, or perhaps a smoothie with some protein in it, some yogurt, maybe an avocado, something like that. So you have a good balance of everything. So next is carbs. Now, another symptom in this problem is that people who do this kind of stuff also tend to heavily minimize extra carbs. So they'll restrict themselves to just protein, fats, and vegetables. This goes back to retraining your appetite to want reasonable portions of food throughout the day, but also giving you the energy to actually not be just starving by the end of the day. You don't want to be in a situation where you're building up so much hunger across the day. Feed yourself. Slashing carbs throughout the day and throughout the week only to binge at night or binge on the weekend is a false economy. You're getting literally the worst of both worlds. Okay, so the whole point of this entire video is genetics loads the gun, but the environment pulls the trigger. For those of you who are struggling with nighttime eating, don't exacerbate the issue by quite literally training your body to want food at night before bed and to want a lot of it. It's the opposite of what you should be doing. All it's doing is playing into your behavior patterns which you're trying to stop and which are ultimately holding back your progress. So remember what we started this discussion off with. We started this discussion off with objectivity and not knowing your blind spots. So what I've said here today is going to hit quite a few of you in the fields because your eating patterns are feeding into the same behavior patterns which you're trying to fix. So think about that, be objective, be open-minded, and give it a try. Right, folks, I'm going to call it there. I'll speak to you in the next one. All the best.